Welcome. Today we are discussing New Jersey child support in Family Law Software Cloud. So what you are seeing on my screen is Family Law Software Cloud based, which is 100% online. If you are using the desktop version, it has all the same capabilities, all of the same functions, except for in the desktop, you are offline and you must update your program to see some of these updates. If you'd like to upgrade or learn more, please reach out to us. Today's topic is New Jersey child support. And what you are seeing here is the Family Law Software sample file. So if I go into settings down here, I can load the sample file. You can do so at any time on your screen and you would see the same parties and the same numbers. When you are calculating child support, normally you would start with your CIS statement. And when you come to your child support tools, you're going to see information is pre-populated. So you can enter the data in the style of the CIS or come right to the child support calculator, which is the first and most popular tool within our program. If you go to child support and click child support data, by default, we start you in the quick child support calculator. The quick child support calculator is intended for simple cases or for consultations. And what you'll notice on the quick screen is we have a section for children, tax filing status, one source of income or the most common source of income, Social Security, health insurance, and spousal support. That's it. If you are on this screen and the case is more complicated or you're looking for other options that you know are in the program, don't worry, we have the complete calculator. So if this screen isn't getting you where you need to be because there's other twists in the case, you'll see that child support is a live number 195 at the top. None of your work is wasted from the quick screen because if I click complete, which is our complete child support calculator, that number for child support 195 paid by Blake follows us. And so all of that data is in this screen. It's in these folders. You can jump around. You don't have to go in order of the folders. For our purposes, we will go in order. And the first thing you're going to notice is if there's anything new in federal or state laws or taxation, we're going to try to put it right in front of you. Right now in New Jersey, there's really nothing new. This is about the taxability of alimony. So while this has impacted your cases since 2018, we still put it at the top because there's still a lot of questions about it. So if you have an older case, you're coming for a child support modification, these boxes might be relevant. But if you're doing a new case, you can just move on because this is going to be the default. Let's go into the first folder, which is children. We're going to spend a good amount of time here because this has a lot to do with your final child support results. So this is going to be the children folder. Again, I'm using the sample file. So if you were to come here and you have not done a CIS, this is your first time, you would want to click this box for add child. So if I need to add more children or add the first child, that's the box that I would click. The children's name, you can skip that. You can put their initials, whatever you'd like to do, because obviously this is, how you're going to reference the children. And then here is the date of birth. You don't skip this. If you skip this, you could be missing out on a lot of things to do with taxes, a lot of things to do with your local calculations. So right now, both children are pretty young. And so let's say that one of the children is a teenager. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to 2008. By doing that, I instantly see an effect on child support. Why? Because this box is automatically going to check itself because of the teenage adjustment. So the date of birth is important not only for your local calculations, it's also important for federal tax calculations. So know that the date of birth is important for multiple reasons, so you do not want to skip that. Next, you're going to see the PPR. So we list the PPR here automatically based off of these numbers, which are the overnights. By default, when you come here, your overnights are going to be annualized. And then your child support result is on a weekly basis. You might be okay with that. or you might prefer to switch the overnights to a weekly overnight schedule. So to do that, I would just use this drop down here and you can change it to weekly or annual, which are going to be the most popular for your state. I'm going to leave it on annual for now. And so I can see that Taylor is the majority timesharing parent. So therefore Taylor is going to be our PPR. So that's how these are going to correlate. So if I were to switch Blake to the majority timesharing parent as for overnights go, then I would see that Blake is now listed as the PPR and he's going to be claiming the children for tax purposes. So overnights have a direct relationship on these boxes. So let's say that time sharing is close to 50-50 or equal. First, you could go by federal rules, which says that there's only 365 days in a year. And so therefore, one person is going to have the children more than the other. There is no such thing as 50-50. And so 183, Taylor's the PPR. Now, family law software will do a true 50-50 calculation for child support purposes. How would I do that? Well, in New Jersey, there's lots of ways to do that. First off, I could type in 182.5 for both children, 182.5, and run the child support calculation with Taylor as PPR. And let's look at the result for child support, which is 154 a week. I could go and jot that down. And then I could run this again with, instead of Taylor as the PPR, I could run it with Blake as the PPR. So I'll come here and I'll select Blake and I'll select Blake. And then we update the tax dependence for Blake. And then we see what child support is. Blake is still the payor, but the number is significantly lower. So that's one of the ways to go about a 50-50 case in New Jersey. The other way to look at a 50-50 case in New Jersey is going to be down here. So if you've noticed these checkboxes, I briefly discussed this checkbox when we talked about the teenage adjustment based off of the age, but we also have the Wunsch-Deffler formula built into the program. And so if I want to have a 50-50 timesharing case based off of that formula, I would just check this box. And so because I already had time sharing at a 50-50 with the 182.5, this doesn't change, but the final child support number is going to change because we're going to apply this case to the formula for equal parenting. And then what the calculation is really based off of the sharing of expenses. If you have any questions about this formula, you can click this bubble and we have a little bit of information here. We also have a very detailed blog post on our website, familylawsoftware.com. Click on the blog, use the search and just type in Wunsch. And we're going to bring up a really detailed article about 50-50 parenting and how that affects the calculation and different ways that you can look at it. I think we list 4 different ways that you can calculate time sharing in 50-50 cases because of the PPR and because of the dependency credits associated with children and how those all are going to affect the calculation. It's a lot. So I'm going to uncheck this box. So number 1, you have the option of jotting down these numbers on pen and paper as you are dealing with your 50-50 time sharing case to find out what is fair for the parties, what's best for your client. There's a little bit of art involved in this. So option 1, like I said, jot it down as you go. Option 2, at any time, you can click print guideline and you can print the worksheets and write a note as to how the calculation has been manipulated or changed based off of overnights or based off of the Wunsch-Deffler formula. So you're able to do that. Or in family law software, if you have one of these cases, we have a tool under analysis, and it's particularly helpful in New Jersey for this reason. If I click analysis and I have one of these 50-50 time sharing cases, I could click support what if. This tool is a side-by-side child support calculator. If you're using the sample file, when you come here, this is exactly what you'll see. But if you've never used this tool before because you didn't know it existed, or maybe underappreciated how powerful it is, when you come here, what you're going to see is this. you'll only see this column. And this column is going to match the child support calculator under the enter data. And when I click add scenario, whatever the parties are weighing or whatever you want to show your client or the fact finder on a side-by-side basis, I can see how child support is impacted. Particularly in the actual, the Wunsch-Deffler is not applied, but in this column, I will apply it. And it has a huge effect on child support. So we're going from $62 a week to $106 a week. That is a major change for the payor and for the recipient. And so what I'm able to do is, rather than pen and paper, rather than printing or creating multiple PDFs, I can see these two scenarios, which are identical, but for this one checkbox. And I can click PDF in the top right-hand corner, and this can be for my fact finder. So I could say like, no WD. And then in this one, I can say, I am doing the WD formula. So these are your notes at the top. This is super powerful, can be super compelling. Stay ahead of the mediator, create an exhibit. That's what you're going to be doing. And so I always encourage users, the analysis tools can be overwhelming because of how many there are. But a great way to start is with side-by-side child support. And in New Jersey, I encourage you to do this, especially with the PPR issue or 50-50 time sharing cases. So I can scroll down and there's a lot of different options that I can change. So I encourage you to come here and use this tool. Let's go back. So I'm going back to the child support calculation and I'm scrolling up. So we're back. We've got the two kids and then we've got the overnights here. So I'm just going to play around with overnights. So for instance, I'm going to type in 104 and then 104. So when you are making these selections, whether it's the Wunsch-Deffler, whether it's with time sharing, anytime that you have a child support number that is different from your judge, different from opposing counsel, different than a mediator, know that if you put the same in, you're going to get the same out. So right now I have time sharing 104, and then I have the child support number here. I'm going to click print guideline. So this is how I'm going to print my final child support worksheet. And you can see here, child support shared parenting worksheet. Anytime I have a New Jersey attorney reach out and say, my number is different, my taxes are different, something, I'm instantly able to look at the header or some of these numbers and figure out why it's different. So know that Family Law Software, as you're entering information, we're picking the worksheet for you. And when you come to print, if there are differences, they a lot of times are easy to find. Let us know if you ever have questions. I know that when you guys are really deep into these cases, it can be difficult to just kind of look at something with fresh eyes. So reach out to us. Something else, split custody. So let's say that time sharing is split. So Taylor has the first child, Kim, and then Blake has the second child, Reese. When I have split custody, again, this box is going to automatically check itself. And we also have a pop-up note that says shared custody does not apply. So these are little warnings to you about the overnights have changed, and so therefore shared custody doesn't apply. Or because of the income, shared custody does not apply. So as you make these changes, they seem so little, 104 versus 103, this source of income versus another. It has a huge impact. And so look out for these pop-ups. And then these checkboxes are going to check themselves automatically. You can see that they are blue. They're blue because they're going to update based off of income and based off of overnights. And so if you don't want that to happen, then you would just uncheck this box and you'll instantly see how checking or unchecking the box has an effect on your child support case. This is a lot of information. How are you going to remember this? This is recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel. And you will also notice that there's blue bubbles everywhere. And these blue bubbles are intended to be a self-help guide for you. So if I click on this blue bubble, I get an explanation about what is split custody. What do we mean by that? What happened? You might have done it on accident. So update your time sharing. Or you can click the worksheet to see what we're talking about. And so here, this is the split custody worksheet. How did we do our math? You want to show You want to show the other party how the math came out? Great. This is that worksheet. And I click PDF in the top right-hand corner, and I can attach this as an exhibit to my final worksheet. I'm going to go back to the calculation. So we're still here. We haven't moved forward. And so you've got the worksheets here, you've got the blue bubbles here, and then you have us as a resource. Last, other dependent children. So every time, let me just like change the time sharing here. Every time that you add a child, I'm going to add a new child just so that you can see this phenomena. Every time that you add a child, you're going to see the overnights because we assume that this child belongs to the parties of the case. In this case, we assume the children belong to Taylor and Blake. Now, if Taylor has a child outside, an other dependent child, I click add just like I would any child, but then I uncheck this box. And when I uncheck this box, we had another warning, shared custody does not apply because the PPR's income is below the poverty level. Great, good to know. But the reason we uncheck this box is because of this, the ODD. And so now when I click the ODD, you can see that the time sharing follows us. So this schedule here. And then when I scroll down, this is going to be your ODD calculation. And then this is the line that's going to go to your final worksheet. So if you have an other dependent, it starts by unchecking the box, the time sharing goes away, and we assume that the parent here is the parent where that child lives. And if you are here and you need to make adjustments to the household income, the other income that is coming in, that's what all these yellow boxes are for. We're not going to go into super detail about them, but if they are going to impact your case or you want to enter them, other income that's coming in on a monthly basis, and then you'll see that this calculation updates. There's a worksheet at the bottom for both parties. Right. So that's all I have for you in this case here. We've gone through the children and we've gone over some of these worksheets, and then you've seen like these little pop-up warnings that are happening to let you know about the shared custody issue in this case. All right, let's move forward. So all of this was about the children and how children impact the taxes. And let's go into how income impacts the guidelines. So we're going to scroll down and we're going to open the wage. So we're going to go over income. So let's go over wages and filing status. And excuse me for scrolling. So gross. Every time that we ask for income, it's going to be gross because we are doing all of the taxes for you in the background. Pay attention to the pay period. So if I say Taylor makes $5,000, that's not her annual income. Let me go down here and I will change that to monthly, weekly, etc. So whatever the pay period is, enter the income source gross from the W-2 pay stub and then change the pay period. Imputed income or minimum wage or hourly wage. There's this box here. If I click this box in the cloud, it'll tell me what the current minimum wage in New Jersey is. It happens to be $12.93. So I have applied minimum wage to Taylor in this case. But maybe Taylor's a contractor and you know that Taylor makes $25 an hour. I would still check this box, but then I can adjust the wage or the number of hours worked. So I'll say she's a part-time contractor, $25, but she's only getting 30 hours a week. And I said that she's a contractor, so we can assume that she's 1099 in this case, or she's identified as a 1099 worker. I can just check this box and then she will be subject to the self-employment tax. We assume that all of the parties are in New Jersey and we do not have local tax rates built in. So you're going to see local taxes here. You're going to have to pop that percent here. If you need to change the party, so let's say Blake works in New York City, I can go into parties and children over here in my CIS section, and I can change Blake's taxable state to New York. So if you practice in multiple jurisdictions or you have clients that are living in different states, we will calculate the taxes based off of where they live. So that can be changed. Know that you're going to have to pop in the local tax rate yourself. We assume that whoever has the children the most will be given the head of household designation and the other person will be single. This is a drop down. In this case, we don't have a net income higher than the $360 per week. It looks like, I don't think so, we're close. And so if you want to extrapolate the child support guideline worksheet. For higher income parties, you would just check this box. And so if the parties do not have the higher income, this is going to do nothing. But if they do, and you check this box, then you're going to see the impact on child support instantly. All right, we're going to move into a couple more sources of income. So let's go here. Income, money coming in. All of this is on a monthly basis. But if I check this box, you can see here that there's a little calculator. And so I could put in the annual amount or the monthly amount or the weekly amount. The goal is that you don't have to use a calculator because it's built in. So if I say that the number is annual, I click OK, and then it will convert that into a monthly number for me. Now you might say, wait a minute, there's items on here that are not supposed to affect child support. Don't worry about it. We put it here as a data entry point because you might be a financial professional building a budget report, or you're an attorney and you really want to look at true available net income. That's why we have these data points here for you. And so if you've ever had a question about why we're asking for government benefits that they're receiving, you can click that blue bubble and say, don't worry, we are not going to include it in the child support calculation. So we don't include it, and it is relevant for how much money they actually have for spending. So know that it won't be a part of the child support calculation, but it's important to know what the parties actually have coming in for income sources. Everything is gross. We will tax affect it. You can see that there is a non-tax button, so it can be taxable or non-taxable. So check those if necessary and work your way through. So we talked about the government benefits here. But then there's other government benefits. So these are going to be the non-means tested government benefits. They would go in different sections because they obviously affect the calculation differently. I always tell users, just pay attention to what we're asking for, received by. So whoever gets the check, it goes into their column. So let's say that there is an SSDI benefit or VA benefit received for the child. I would put that, and Taylor happens to get that check in the mail every month. The follow-up question is, what is the reason, or which parent is the reason that that check is coming in? So let's assume that that $700 is coming into the child based off of Blake's disability. I would just select Blake. And we see that child support, there's a significant impact there. So we want to make sure we know who is getting the money and then why that child is receiving that benefit. Other sources of income could go here. You see these blue ones, these are just common sources of income that we've been requested to add. And so if you use family law software in different jurisdictions, maybe you practice in New Jersey and New York. If your program is set to New Jersey, you're going to see different options in your New Jersey calculator than you would in your New York calculator. So don't worry about that. It's because these have been requested by users. And then you have the taxable, non-taxable here. So we've covered all of the income coming in. I'm going to delete this credit so that we don't have that clogging up our calculation. All right, so let's go into our last folder that we're going to discuss, which is going to be deductions and taxes a little bit more in detail. So deductions, let me scroll up to the top. Health insurance is going to be the big one. So the program is specifically asking for the cost of the health insurance premiums on a monthly basis. So these are going to be the health insurance premiums versus unreimbursed healthcare expenses are going to have a separate worksheet. So let's talk about here, we break down health, dental, and vision, and we ask for the total cost that the parent pays, total cost. And so you would pop that number in here. And then you would put the children's share of the health, dental, vision here. So it turns into a lump for the child. So it's asking how much of that $500 is paid toward the children's health, dental, vision. And these are tax elections. So we assume that these health insurance premiums are a W-2 deduction. And so that's what these drop downs are for health, dental, and vision. And if you don't know, you know what the total is. It's easy to find the total. If you know what the total health insurance is, but it's not very easy to find out what the child share is because health insurance is not structured that way, we have this box here and we're going to do a prorate calculation. So all you would do is enter the parent's total payment toward each one of these items, and we will prorate based off of the number of participants and figure out what the child's share is. If you have more questions about that, there's a worksheet here. Unreimbursed medical expenses, what is that? Copays, vitamins, other healthcare stuff. So if you got to pay it out, you would click that worksheet here, and those are going to be unreimbursed. So we're not talking about the premiums, we're talking about unreimbursed health insurance. Daycare, same thing. There's a worksheet here based off of daycare. So let's just say they're paying $1,000 a month for daycare. I click the worksheet here, and then we can see how many participants and the net childcare cost. And then you have that worksheet here. I click here, and this is going to be your official worksheet. I click PDF. Everything is in blue because we're doing math for you. So blue, you don't want to update. You want to go into the calculator and make the appropriate updates, and then all of your numbers will update accordingly. So that was childcare cost that we just did here. Taxes, 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 taxes. How are we calculating the taxes? Great question. Click here to view the worksheet for the taxes. So in New Jersey, we assume that you want to do the W-4. This is what your judges have access to. And so this is going to get you the closest results to your judges. If you don't want to do that, you can use the actual 1040 or any of these appendixes. If I click this, it's red, it's okay. We're calculating taxes in a 1040 style. Why would you want to do this versus what your judge is doing? Lots of things. So let's say that they own a business and they have negative income, or they have the depreciation schedule for a certain asset. You might want to use their real 1040. It's going to be more accurate, but you will never match your judge's tax numbers. And so you're going to have to make that argument as to why you want to use the actual 1040 in your particular case, because by default, we're going to match that calculation. If you have questions about taxes, there's a ton of help here. There's lots of reasons to do this. There's lots of reasons not to. And so that was located under taxes. If there's child support or spousal support being paid on other relationships or on the current relationship, just slow down. There's a lot of boxes. It seems to be for the same thing, but it's not. So this is going to be spousal support on the current case versus other relationships or prior relationships. And then you have your deductions, union dues and retirement. Remember, they got to be mandatory. So if you see someone that's mandatorily contributing $1,000 a month to their retirement account, that's going to be suspicious to me. So employer matching programs are not mandatory. Union dues are not always mandatory. So make sure that you're following up with your client on those. And then a bunch of worksheets. We just entered a ton of information about their income and about their expenses. And so if the gross income, line 1, on your worksheet, you're just going to see the total numbers. And so if you want to have a breakdown of all of the income sources that are being considered in our calculation, this is a great exhibit. I just say PDF it, PDF. And so all of these worksheets are going to help explain how the calculation was done or help you figure out why your calculation might be different than another party. Older, wealthier clients, you might want to go into income from investments and pensions. That's going to be that last folder. If you don't like our child support number for any reason, or you want to have different numbers because you're doing other cash flow and projections, if you open up this folder, we're going to ask you what numbers you do want to use. Okay. So it's going to say, if you don't want to accept our child support number, how much child support do you want? So they've agreed to a higher number, for instance. We will calculate the step down. So as children age out from child support, we have a step down worksheet. We assume that child support ends at 18. You might not want it to end at 18. So if you go to the step down calculator, you'll see our estimated levels and you can update when child support will terminate. All right, so let's go to our final printout. So we have our shared parenting worksheet. All of the numbers are in blue because they've drawn from our calculations. Don't change them here. Go back into the calculator and make those changes. Click PDF in the top right-hand corner when you're ready to make a PDF. And then we have additional worksheets that are located here. These are additional worksheets that we touched base on throughout this presentation. But then we also have the New Jersey law and guidelines related to child support. So these are all going to be very helpful links that will supplement your guideline worksheet or go over the current New Jersey statutes. Thank you so much for coming to this presentation.